Thank
Okay.
you. Thank you for saying yes to the interview. I really appreciate it. I've
You're welcome.
I've done New Zealand as an immigration
Yeah.
story, and I've done someone in America, which is not quite an immigration story. It was more traveling, and
Yeah.
I was quite eager to get into chapter 2 of the immigration story.
Yeah.
Are you okay if I call you Cindy?
Yeah.
In
Yeah. Yeah.
the video.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this obviously everything is recorded. This is the video, and then
Okay. So my name is Cindy. I've been in the UK for 20 years. And what else would you like me to say about myself? Is that it?
well, so when I noticed your post, you shared some photos of beautiful beachside, some beachside scenery there, and you
Yeah.
mentioned owning a beachside business
Yeah.
in South Africa, and you've given all of that up for a life in the UK.
Yeah.
Please tell me more.
Okay, so I grew up on the south coast, KZN, lower south coast of Durban. Was born there and lived a really good, happy outdoor lifestyle. As you know, it's a lot of surfing and beach life, very laid back, very different from the city. Tried to live in the cities in South Africa and it didn't work out, so always ended up going back there. And then my mother started owning businesses on the coast. When I was in my late teens, she started buying up different restaurants, coffee bars. She had a coffee bar in Uvongo, and then she had a restaurant on Margate Beach. And then she got one in Marina Beach, which was the one that we ended up keeping for the longest. That was 10 years we had that. It was great. It was a lovely working life. So I worked on the beach during my lunch break. I could go and have a swim. We had a parrot there that used to go around sitting on people's shoulders, and he lived there. He was part of the furniture.
Yeah.
So it was a great life. And then I met somebody from the UK. So I've not relocated here because at that point I wouldn't have said South Africa was in trouble yet. That was in like early 2000s. I married somebody from the UK, so I relocated for that reason. I definitely didn't come here for the weather. Because that's not what we get. But in terms of settling, yeah, so there's some hard bits, but you're probably going to ask me those questions a bit later.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I forwarded you the questions, didn't I? I lived in the UK for a few years. Me, my wife, and my son went over there in 2015 for work, and I actually loved it. I actually thoroughly enjoyed it, and I love the people. Besides them invading us 100 years ago, I actually enjoyed the people. And I worked in Guildford, a beautiful little town in Surrey, and I just giving that up was probably one of the hardest things we had to do, because my in-laws were already settled there for about 20 years, and we had to say goodbye to them. And if people tell me they left South Africa for the UK, I can understand that. There's a lot of culture and a lot of history in the UK, and one of the most beautiful things that I remember, besides it being very green and surprisingly a lot of space, was the architecture, which I thought was just absolutely incredible. Right, well, thank you for that. Thanks for the introduction.
Okay.
So my first question, I think you basically answered, was what motivated you to move from South Africa to the UK, and what sacrifices did you have to make in the process? So I think you answered half of that.
I think the obvious sacrifices are what everyone has to make, and that's leaving behind the lifestyle, all the open spaces and the weather and family and friends. So those are the ones I think that we've all had to face. However, there are some hidden challenges which you don't really think about until you get here. So when you get, it's all new and you're kind of taking it all in and everything. But I think when you start settling down and you have children, new things crop up that you didn't think about before. So for example, playing with my children in this country was so different, and I didn't know how to play with them here, because in my world, when you're in South Africa, there's so much that's free. You go down to the beach, there's so much going on there. There's freshwater pools, there's the sea, there's playing areas, there's entertainment on the beach, fireworks on the beach at New Year's. There's a lot going on, beauty contests on the beach. There's always something going on around every corner. There's water sports. You always knew someone that had boats and skis, or farms that had things to do on. There was always something going on, and a lot of it was either really reasonable or free. And when I came here and I had my kids and I was trying to entertain them, it took on a whole new thing, and I found that a struggle. You're inside a lot when the weather's not good. And then when you do go and find something for them to do, it costs, which is fine, but it's not sustainable. So you can go to a ballpark for 2 hours, and then that's 2 hours, and then what do you do for the rest of the day? You can do that every day, but it mounts up, and also they could get fed up with it because it's the same thing every day. There's no variety. Trying to find variety and trying to find things to do in the cold. Something really resonated with me with that when I saw a post of some children jumping in muddy puddles. And the mom was going, look at this is wonderful. My kids are jumping in muddy puddles and they're really enjoying it. And I thought, that's really sad that's kind of the only thing people have got in winter, is to put coats on their kids and let them jump in muddy puddles. I thought, that's really sad. It's deemed as something really entertaining, because that really is the outdoors. It's running around in the forest and jumping in muddy puddles. But I mean, how much of that can you really do? Like we'd spend the whole day on the beach from 9 in the morning till 6 at night. The kids would be exhausted. We used to go on holiday to South Africa with the children. We'd be all day on the beach, and they get home, they were absolutely exhausted. They'd be sleeping well. In the UK, I found the kids not sleeping as well. They get to night time and they weren't ready to.
They're not burnt out.
They're not burnt out. So those kind of struggles, to me, ended up overriding all the other stuff, because those are daily things. They are everyday things. Your initial struggle when you first move over is a temporary struggle. So when you first come, getting all your documents together and trying to get your residency right, and all the correspondence, that's just like a few months of your life. Those other things are even more profound, because they're daily struggles, daily and yearly, and they go on and on and on. So moving here, you need to think about, I know a lot of people focus on the initial struggle, and that's just getting here, but they need to think about the thereafter as well, and about the little things that start mounting up, the daily things that you notice, that start collecting, and can be a psychological adaptation. You have to adjust.
My father-in-law, when we told him we are moving to the UK, he said exactly the same things. He said, listen, remember, this is a different lifestyle. You're not going to have the freedom that you had there. Now, we knew it and we prepared for it. We did try and make the very best of it, but I'll be honest, it was short-lived. The summers were short. What I
Yeah.
remember from going down to the beach, say to Newquay or West Wittering, I think was the place where we normally went. The days were sort of short because you get that like this 2-3 hour window of really sunny weather and it's nice and you're swimming, and suddenly you feel like, oh, there's a chill coming, and then you get my boy in the car and maybe grab an ice cream somewhere, and then we go to Portsmouth to the motel where we were staying or wherever, and it was short-lived, and then suddenly winter's there again, and yes, we tried to do the best of it. For the sake of our sanity, we would go out to, say, Alice Holt Forest, and we'd go for hikes, and we would go hunting the gruffalo and all those things, and great memories, wonderful fun, but that was it. And
it's limited.
For us, that wasn't from that area. It was all we had. Someone from the UK, they had a different lifestyle because they grew up there, and they had I mean, I remember stopping at home once, and my neighbor was stopping with their kids, and their kids were in these complete overalls, suits. And I was like, well, what are those? They're like, no, that's their paddle gear. I'm like, what?
Yeah, it's like they're going to the moon.
Yeah. That's what they wear for the day. They're just going to go be jumping and paddle. And they can't wait. They're like beaming. Well, thank goodness, where we stayed was close to, it was Caesar's Camp, is what it's called. It was this massive woodland area. So my son and I, if it wasn't raining too much, because it was raining most of the time, we could go on these long hikes just for the day. We would go walking, and great memories. But look, we left the UK for a reason. So when we had my daughter, it was we needed a lifestyle where we can have the kids being like play outside, enjoy some of the things that we had growing up. Now being where we are now, Melbourne, it's not the most perfect example of that, because Melbourne is pretty cool as well, but our summers are pretty lengthy, so they have something to look forward to, and thank you for that was great. Thanks for sharing. Right, I'm going to jump into question number 2. How did you adjust? Sorry, was that?
Carry on.
How did you adjust to the cultural differences between South Africa and the UK? Were there any challenges that you faced during the process of settling in?
Well, culturally, I think there is a difference. However, it's small in comparison to, say, if you were going to other foreign countries, because our ancestors are literally from the UK or Europe. So we're already part the way there, aren't we? And we've always had holiday makers from UK down in South Africa, especially where I've come from as a holiday area. So we always had holiday makers that were English. And I mean, my grandparents were mostly British. So there's already not such a gap. Say, for example, if we had to move to France or Italy or somewhere like that, or a country where the gap is a lot larger, it'd be a lot more difficult. There's a language barrier, there's a lot of cultural differences in terms of countries like that. However, we are closer to British people than probably any other country. Maybe America would be all right as well. So the cultural thing, it's not huge. There are some little things, and they are little, that are different. But I wouldn't call it. That was not my main problem, fitting in. I've fit in pretty okay, really. I wouldn't say I've had a problem with that. There probably is a bit more bullying in the schools than there was in my school, and I can just vouch for my school, which was Port Shepstone. So they in terms of the schools, maybe felt like that might have been a bit of a cultural difference. However, it is what it is. It is a different country, so you're going to get something.
I worked in a school in the UK. It's my job. I do IT for schools, and I found, and I've done some of it in South Africa, and I'm doing it now in Australia. But what I found is the things that kids fight about is what baffles me overseas, where we fought about all kinds of stuff when we were at school, and argued with each other, worked it all out. Nowadays, it's all social media fueled. This girl said something about that girl on Facebook. Before you know it, it's a full-on Barney, and and it's there's a huge culture culture difference in children that grew up in South Africa and in the UK, and I found, because my personal experience was they give a lot of freedom, where I personally believe common sense it's only fully developed at 21 or hardly. They really empower children, and which I personally believe is not always the right way, because they're not always wise enough to make the right decisions that's gonna make them good human beings, for that matter.
Yeah, we had a lot more discipline, didn't we, in our schools?
Yes, which probably is the best, but I think I turned out all right. And, me being disciplined is probably some of my fondest stories to tell, because people here can't believe it. I have to say, I did culturally wise, I got along faster with with the UK people than I did in Australia. There's a bit more of a gap to bridge.
Yes, I can understand that. Yes. I can understand that.
Understand, sorry, I missed that. Right, so has your experience of living in the UK been what you expected it to be when you first moved there? What were some of the unexpected challenges that you faced? I think we've covered that.
There's another thing that I also wasn't prepared for is the feeling of being like a country orphan, if you could call it that. So what I mean by that is you don't always really feel like you quite belong here, because this is not the country where you were born. So although you kind of slot in somehow, you don't feel that feeling of belonging like you would with a place where you've grown up. But then when you've lived here for a long time, you don't feel like you belong in South Africa either. So you start feeling a bit like an orphan, and you don't really know where you fit in. We used to go back on holiday to South Africa, and there was a feeling of like, this is not my country anymore, and I'm just here on holiday now. It's not mine. And then you come here and you also feel like you're a foreigner, and you're not, this is not your country. Even after 20 years, you don't really feel like it's part of you. It's not part of you. So it's a strange thing. It's something else that you're not prepared for, after moving here. And it is something that I've noticed. So, but I mean, there's some good things about living here, and the one is, you're not having to look over your shoulder all the time.
Security.
So, I don't miss that. I can't think of anything else to say about that, really.
We fell asleep so many times at night with the keys still outside the door, stuff like that. Sometimes people would take the key and put it through the letterbox. I mean, that's not something you will see in South Africa.
Not anymore.
You live, depending on who walks past your house, I guess, at that certain time. But yes, I think that's how we got through a lot of the times. Is reminding ourselves that we've got small children. We are there for the security, and not everyone who left South Africa was motivated by getting hurt. I got hurt, I've been stabbed several times in the back of my head, back of my back.
Really?
Yeah, no, I've been I've been around the block.
Oh,
So
goodness me.
I wouldn't say those things motivated me to leave.
Yeah.
My wife told me one day we're leaving, and we
Yeah.
left.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can tell firsthand about the hurt and the crime that happens there, and I know the people that went through it. And my advice will always be, if you can get out, get out.
Yeah.
It is a great life if you have it good in South Africa, but it's still not always a safe life. Getting out doesn't mean you're not South African anymore. It doesn't mean you have to let your traditions go. You'll see the motto of the website is South Africa is not just a country, it's a people. And we've got good traditions, good, strong traditions. And I think it's important for and I'm not just talking potjie kos and braai and biltong. I'm talking about the things that we taught our kids, the things that they need to remember, things that their forefathers fought and died for. Those we keep instilling those on our children and keep reminding them of those things. Our traditions will live on. It doesn't matter where we are. We've got there's massive South African communities worldwide. The UK is not just one of them. There's like a whole community in Argentina and London, Ontario, which I think is in Canada. Australia, New Zealand it's just, I mean, Perth. You can't walk down the street and not hear Afrikaans. It's Afrikaans.
Really?
Yeah, it's Afrikaans everywhere.
Yeah, really.
Yes. Thank you for that. Right. Question number 3, is it? No, we're down number 4. Have you been able to maintain connections with family and friends in South Africa over the years, despite the distance? How has technology helped you to stay in touch? Now, I just want to elaborate on that because I think what you said about feeling orphaned, my wife and I, we felt that at times. We did, and especially when we lost communication with family and friends back home for months at a time, and then we realized quickly when we're doing like a FaceTime call on a birthday, that's what we missed. That is the missing link. And then once you have the conversation, it's like diving into the waves and this rush of water just spilling over you, and you're like, oh, you know, I'm doing it again. I'm South African. Yes, I'm overseas, but I do belong somewhere.
Yeah.
Give it over to you.
Yeah, I know. Yes, I totally get that. And it was definitely, I would say, down to social media that I did stay in touch with as many people as I did. Because I think the first 5 years I was here, I was so engrossed in my children. They were both very little. I had them close together. And I got totally engrossed in, you know, being a mother. And you know what it's like, it's very time consuming. And I didn't even think about connecting to many people. I think I had a few phone calls with the main ones. And then after about 5 years, you know, when they've started school and you start to think about other stuff that you've left behind in South Africa, friends that you had, and you start thinking, oh, I wonder how they are. And that's when I started joining Facebook and started looking for them. And I set about with the main goal of finding as many as I could. And I did. I found literally all my, you know, old school friends, and joined our high school Facebook site, and I found everyone. I think I found absolutely everyone I was looking for, maybe one or two not on there. But that was good because I got to watch their children grow up. So school friends, you know, I watched their kids grow up. Cousins, you know, we watched each other's children grow up, and that was really good. So I'd say we were very fortunate to have that facility. Otherwise, you know, it would have been difficult. We wouldn't have had as much luxury in that. You know, as you said, you know, phone calls on, you know, WhatsApp and all that, so reasonable. It's not expensive or anything, doesn't cost you anything. So that's a good thing.
If I'm allowed to just push that question a bit, so that obviously also counted to a lot during COVID when you guys were pretty much in lockdown. Because we did COVID year pretty tough. We had I think a full 9 months of lockdown, if you put it all together, where we weren't allowed to move more than 5 kilometers from our homes and everything. But I can't even imagine where the UK is so on top of each other already, how to do it over there.
It was very difficult. Very difficult. And I definitely didn't want to stay at home. So I made sure I actually got a job in a care home, because I knew that was one of the businesses that was not going to close down over COVID.
Good on you.
I wanted to stay in touch with people, and I wanted to be out and about, and I wanted to be allowed to go out and allowed to go to work. I did not want to lock down in a house. It's bad enough when you finish work that you go home to a box when it's cold. And that's exactly what you do. Everyone just goes home to a box, to keep warm. And I just felt I didn't want to go through the whole of the lockdown just in a box.
Yeah.
I got COVID twice because we had to be tested in the care home I worked, and I had to lock down for that 10 days, which I hated, absolutely hated that.
Yeah.
So that wasn't fun. But it was a difficult time. But as I said, I made sure that I got a job that got me out. That's how I coped with it.
I just got it for the first time. I've been very good
at
avoiding it for 3 years. I felt invincible. I've got a business partner in the UK. He lives in Brighton. And I told him on the phone the other night, you know what, I think I probably won't ever get it. It's just like, it's all those TV shots I used to get in South Africa as a baby. And then while I was on the phone with him, I actually had it already. I just didn't know. When I tested myself the next morning, because I felt so rotten and I had to go to work, I'm like, oh, let me just quickly do a test, because we've got stacks of the rat tests here and positive. I'm like, wow, I can't believe it. But wow, what an interesting couple of days. A flu. No, this is different. I never felt this way before. Anyway, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. Right.
You seem all right, and I never got symptoms, so I was okay. But you seem all right, so you're lucky.
I've been crying like a baby. I'm actually putting up a straight face now. I'm
right.
Oh
wow.
But I'm looking on the up. It's looking better 2 days ago. Well, final question, and before I ask, I just want to say thank you so much for your time. It's
You're
great
welcome.
Conversations. I do love doing this, and I mean, we did our first immigration story 2 weeks ago. That video was standing on about almost 5,000 views, just over 4,000. Hundreds of subscribers. Everyone's just eager to hear the next story, and it's a lot of South Africans listening to these stories because they want to know. They want to know because they're on the verge of making the decision. They're thinking about it. But they want to know what it is. What is it that that they're giving up? What are they walking into, and what can they do different? It's just basically those 3 things in a nutshell. Right. Final question. Looking back. So we're just getting the 10-minute warning here, right? Looking back on your decision to move to the UK, what advice would you give someone who is considering making the move? And what factors should they take into account when making such a decision?
Well, for me, I think for everyone it's different, but I didn't have so much of the, as I say, the immigration process wasn't as difficult for me as it might be for some other people, because as I say, I married someone from here, so it was a bit easier than maybe for most. But I think the things they need to think about are the long-term psychological things that could affect them when they come here. The differences in the country and the way of life and everything. Not as much the short-term stuff of getting here. They need to think about the next decades many decades that they have to spend here. So it's the psychological adjustment to the differences in lifestyle in the country, and as you say, a little bit of cultural difference, but it's not big. It's that they need to maybe prepare themselves for some of the things I've brought up, or things maybe that people are not going to think about. They're thinking about the short term, but they just maybe need to, if someone had maybe told me those things that I've discovered now before I came, and I could have been more prepared for them, then it might have been easier, because I would have found coping mechanisms earlier on, instead of getting to the point where I was frustrated with it, and then I had to sit back and think, right, what's frustrating me? Oh, it's that, and then try and find ways of dealing with it. Then to maybe prepare yourself for those things is better. You know, if someone can give you a lead on it, and you can psychologically try and find coping mechanisms for it before it happens.
I think out of my own experience, what I would definitely would have done differently was see more, because the UK is such a compressed, rich environment full of history, and I regret not seeing enough. I mean, we've driven up to New South Wales border where we are now, and it takes 8-9 hours for the trip, where that same amount of travel will take you all the way to Scotland, and you can go see all castles and experience all that history. Just drive to Paris, for instance. Those are things that I didn't do, and I didn't see it, and I don't know when I'll ever get that opportunity again. So don't get caught up in the culture shock of it all. I dare not call it misery of it all, because there's beauty there. Make something out of it, and don't get caught up in it. Just make something out of it. Go and explore, and beauty is out there. For my wife and I, we had small children when we were over there, and we were forced to keep busy for the sake of the little ones. There wasn't a park or a swing that we didn't explore, because we just had to.
You have no choice but to use what there is when you can. It's not always a lot, but you know, as you say, you go and look for stuff, and you just get through it, don't you? But it's about getting through it.
The only way is through.
Thank
you so much for your time. It was great.
Thank you.
How's it, mate? just tell me.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Sorry, okay.
It's okay.
Yeah, sorry.
That's all right. Just
wondering about you.
You'll be featuring, by the way.
He wanted his few seconds of fame.
Sorry, that's good seeing. Sorry.
That's good. Don't worry about it. It's great. That's why I love these videos. They're not formal or official or anything. They're just fun.
I know. Totally understand.
Please send me some photos and
I will do.
You can send me whatever you like. Maybe some of your holiday visits to South Africa. The surroundings and those sort of things. I'll put them in over the video, and just make some nice break in between.
I will do that.
What time is it over there now?
It's 1:45.
1:45.
Yeah.
Almost like that.
Oh wow. Big time difference there, isn't there?
No, it's almost 10 o'clock here now.
Wow. Okay.
Thank you so much, and
You're welcome. Thank
probably
you.
get this up in the next week or two. We're busy moving, so it'll probably be sometime mid next week. Then all the editing will be done.
Right.
So send the photos when you're ready, and I'll get it all up.
All right. Good.
Thanks, Cindy.
Take care.
Bye. Have a good day.
Bye. You too. Bye.